Imagine opening your pantry years after you bought a food, and instead of finding something bland, stale, or completely unappetizing, you find something you would actually want to eat. That is the difference between simply storing food and building a smart survival pantry. Because long-term food storage isn't only about how long something can technically remain edible. Taste matters, texture matters, and most importantly, will your family actually want to eat it when the time comes? A food can have an impressive shelf life, but if nobody in your household enjoys eating it, it isn't necessarily a great preparedness choice. That's why today's list is focused on foods that can offer both storage potential and good everyday eating quality when stored properly. These are foods that can fit into normal meals, foods that can be rotated into your regular kitchen, and foods that can remain useful when fresh groceries aren't available. But before we start, there's one important distinction. A food's shelf life depends heavily on how it's packaged and stored. Temperature, humidity, light, oxygen, pests, and the condition of the original packaging can all affect how long food maintains its quality. So when we say a food can last for years, that doesn't mean every package will automatically remain perfect forever. Always follow the manufacturer's storage recommendations. And for long-term storage, use appropriate food-grade containers and conditions. The smartest strategy is still rotation. Eat what you store, then replace it. That way, you're constantly maintaining a supply of foods your household already knows and enjoys. Today we're counting down 12 survival foods that can taste surprisingly good even after years in storage when properly packaged and stored. Some are everyday pantry staples. Some are excellent ingredients. And a few may completely change the way you think about long-term food storage. Before we begin, subscribe to Prepper Pulse and turn on notifications. We upload new videos daily with practical preparedness tips, grocery advice, food storage ideas, and emergency planning strategies to help you stay informed and ready. Now let's count down 12 survival foods that can still taste great years after you store them. Starting with number 12. Number 12. Freeze-dried strawberries. Starting at number 12 is a food that can bring a surprising amount of flavor to a long-term pantry. Freeze-dried strawberries. If you've ever eaten fresh strawberries, you already know how quickly they can spoil. Freeze-drying changes that completely. The process removes most of the moisture while preserving much of the fruit's flavor and texture. The result is a lightweight food that can be stored for a long time when properly packaged. And unlike some long-term storage foods that feel like emergency rations, freeze-dried strawberries can actually be enjoyable. You can eat them straight from the package. Add them to oatmeal. Mix them into cereal. Use them as a topping for desserts. Or crush them into a powder and add that flavor to other foods. They're also extremely lightweight. Most of the water has been removed, so a relatively small package can contain a useful amount of fruit. That's convenient when storage space is limited. But packaging is critical. Freeze-dried foods need protection from moisture and oxygen. Once the package is opened, the food can absorb moisture from the air and lose its crisp texture. That's why resealing opened packages properly is important. For serious long-term storage, follow the manufacturer's instructions regarding oxygen absorbers, containers, and storage conditions. Keep them somewhere cool, dry, and away from direct sunlight. And remember, not every freeze-dried product has the same shelf life. Check the packaging and follow the manufacturer's recommended storage period. Freeze-dried strawberries earn the number 12 spot because they provide something that many survival foods don't. Real fruit flavor. They're sweet, lightweight, versatile, and can make simple emergency meals feel much less boring. And the next food on our list is another freeze-dried favorite that can turn an ordinary pantry breakfast into something much more enjoyable. Number 11. Freeze-dried blueberries. At number 11 is another fruit that can make long-term food storage feel a lot less like survival food. Freeze-dried blueberries. Blueberries are naturally sweet and flavorful, but fresh berries have a relatively short storage life. Freeze-drying removes most of their moisture while allowing much of their original flavor to remain. That makes them an excellent option for adding fruit to a long-term pantry. You can eat them straight from the package. Add them to oatmeal. Mix them into cereal. Combine them with trail mix. Use them in baking. Or crush them and add the powder to smoothies or other recipes when appropriate. The biggest advantage is variety. Imagine eating simple oatmeal day after day during an extended emergency. Now add freeze-dried blueberries. Suddenly, the same basic breakfast has a completely different flavor. That's what makes long-term food storage more practical. You aren't just storing calories. You're storing ingredients that can keep meals interesting. Packaging is extremely important. Moisture is the enemy of freeze-dried food. Once exposed to humid air, the berries can lose their crisp texture quickly. Keep unopened packages sealed according to the manufacturer's recommendations. After opening, reseal them carefully and use them within the recommended period. For long-term storage, follow the packaging instructions regarding containers and oxygen protection. Store them in a cool, dry, dark location. And rotate your supply whenever possible. Freeze-dried blueberries earn the number 11 spot because they're lightweight, naturally sweet, easy to use, and capable of adding real fruit flavor to meals long after fresh berries would have disappeared. And the next food is something much more filling. A pantry staple that can serve as the foundation for countless meals while still tasting great when properly stored. Number 10. Freeze-dried peaches. At number 10 is another fruit that can bring a surprising amount of sweetness and flavor to long-term food storage. Freeze-dried peaches. Fresh peaches are delicious, but they're also delicate. They bruise easily, ripen quickly, and eventually spoil. Freeze-dried peaches give you another way to enjoy that familiar fruit flavor without depending on refrigeration. They are light, crisp, sweet, and ready to eat. You can enjoy them directly from the package. Add them to oatmeal. Mix them into cereal. Combine them with other dried or freeze-dried fruits. Or use them as an ingredient in baking when appropriate. They can also be rehydrated with water if you prefer a softer texture. That flexibility is useful during an emergency because different people may prefer different ways of eating the same food. As with other freeze-dried products, packaging is critical. Moisture can quickly affect texture and quality. Keep unopened packages sealed according to the manufacturer's instructions. Once opened, protect the remaining fruit from humidity and reseal it carefully. For long-term storage, follow the manufacturer's recommendations regarding oxygen absorbers and suitable containers. Store the food in a cool, dry, dark location. And don't forget to rotate your supply. Even foods designed for long-term storage should be monitored. Freeze-dried peaches earn the number 10 spot because they're easy to eat, lightweight, naturally sweet, and can bring variety to breakfasts and snacks when fresh fruit isn't available. And now we're moving into foods that can do more than provide a sweet snack. The next item can become part of an actual meal. Number 9. Dehydrated potatoes. We're now at number 9. And this food can turn into something incredibly familiar. Dehydrated potatoes. Potatoes are one of the most versatile foods in the kitchen. You can bake them, mash them, fry them, add them to soups, or combine them with countless other ingredients. The problem is that fresh potatoes aren't ideal for extremely long-term storage under ordinary household conditions. That's where dehydrated potatoes come in. Depending on the product, you can find dehydrated potato flakes, slices, dices, or other forms designed for extended storage. They are lightweight, easy to store, and can be rehydrated with water when you're ready to use them. The flavor is also familiar. That matters. During an emergency, familiar foods can make meals feel much more normal. Dehydrated potato flakes can become mashed potatoes. You can add seasonings, mix in shelf-stable ingredients, or use them as part of other recipes. Some dehydrated potato products can also be useful as ingredients for soups and casseroles. When choosing a product, pay attention to the ingredients. Some versions contain added dairy, salt, or seasonings. Others are much simpler. Choose based on your household's preferences and storage needs. Keep the package sealed and protect it from moisture. Once opened, transfer leftovers to an appropriate airtight container if recommended. For serious long-term storage, follow the manufacturer's instructions rather than assuming every dehydrated potato product has the same shelf life. Dehydrated potatoes earn the number 9 spot because they are familiar, versatile, filling, and capable of becoming several different meals with simple preparation. And the next food on our list is something that can add protein and a rich, savory flavor to a long-term pantry. Number 8. Freeze-dried ground beef. At number 8 is something that can make a survival meal feel much more like a normal dinner. Freeze-dried ground beef. Protein can be one of the more challenging categories when you're building a long-term food supply. Fresh meat requires refrigeration or freezing. But properly freeze-dried meat can be stored for much longer when packaged and stored according to the manufacturer's recommendations. Ground beef is especially useful because it can work with so many other ingredients. You can add it to pasta, mix it with rice, combine it with vegetables, use it in tacos, add it to soups, or turn it into a simple skillet meal. That's the real advantage. You're not storing one meal. You're storing an ingredient that can become many different meals. And because freeze-drying removes most of the moisture, the product is significantly lighter than fresh meat. When you're ready to use it, follow the package instructions for rehydration. Use safe drinking water and prepare the meat according to the manufacturer's directions. Food safety remains important even with long-term storage products. Don't assume that a shelf-stable package can be handled like an ordinary snack once opened. Pay attention to storage instructions and preparation guidance. Packaging is also critical. Oxygen and moisture can damage long-term storage foods. Keep unopened containers intact and store them in a cool, dry environment. If you open a package, protect the remaining food from moisture and use it according to the recommended time frame. Freeze-dried ground beef earns the number 8 spot because it provides a versatile protein source that can transform simple staples into satisfying meals. And the next food is something that can make those meals even better. Number 7. Freeze-dried cheese. We're now at number 7. And this is one of the foods that can make long-term storage feel much less like emergency eating. Freeze-dried cheese. Cheese is one of those ingredients that can instantly make a basic meal feel more satisfying. It adds flavor, fat, texture, and richness. But fresh cheese obviously requires refrigeration. That's where properly freeze-dried cheese can become useful. Depending on the product, you may find freeze-dried cheddar, mozzarella, or other varieties. You can eat some products directly as a crunchy snack. Others can be rehydrated and used in cooking. You can add it to pasta, mix it into soups, use it with crackers, add it to eggs when you have fresh eggs available, or combine it with other long-term ingredients. That versatility is important. A good emergency pantry should contain foods that can work across different meals. However, cheese products can vary significantly in their storage requirements. Don't assume every freeze-dried cheese has the same shelf life. Check the manufacturer's packaging and storage instructions carefully. Moisture protection is especially important. Once the package is opened, exposure to humidity can affect texture and quality. Reseal the remaining product properly and use it according to the manufacturer's recommendations. Store unopened packages in a cool, dry, dark location. Freeze-dried cheese earns the number 7 spot because it can add real dairy flavor and richness to meals while taking up much less space than fresh cheese. And now we're entering the top 6. The next food is something almost everyone recognizes. A sweet pantry staple that can remain useful for an incredibly long time when stored properly. Number 6. Honey. We're now in the top 6. At number 6 is one of the most remarkable foods you can keep in a long-term pantry. Honey. Honey has been valued for thousands of years, and under suitable storage conditions, pure honey can remain usable for an exceptionally long time. Over time, you may notice changes in its appearance. It can become thicker. It may crystallize. The color can change. But crystallization doesn't automatically mean the honey has gone bad. In many cases, crystallized honey can be returned to a more liquid texture by gently warming the container. The important thing is proper storage. Keep honey tightly sealed. Protect it from moisture. And store it in a cool, dry location. You don't need refrigeration for ordinary honey. Honey is also incredibly versatile. Use it to sweeten oatmeal. Add it to tea. Spread it on bread. Mix it into recipes. or use a small amount to improve the flavor of otherwise basic foods. That makes it more than just a sweetener. It's a flavor ingredient. And because you only need a little at a time, a single container can last a long time in many households. One important safety point. Honey should not be given to children under 1 year of age because of the risk of infant botulism. For everyone else, use it according to normal dietary needs. When buying honey for long-term storage, check the ingredients and choose products appropriate for your household. Pure honey is particularly attractive for long-term pantry storage because it has a very simple composition and excellent keeping qualities. Honey earns the number 6 spot because it's naturally sweet, versatile, compact, and one of the rare foods that can remain useful for an extremely long time when stored properly. And now we're down to the final 5. The next food can provide something honey can't. A hearty, savory meal that can become a major comfort during difficult times. Number 5. Freeze-dried chicken. We're now in the top 5. At number 5 is another long-term protein that can turn basic pantry ingredients into a real meal. Freeze-dried chicken. Chicken is one of the most common proteins in everyday cooking. That's what makes it so useful in long-term storage. You already know how to use it. You can add it to rice. Mix it into pasta. Use it in soup. Combine it with vegetables. Make a simple chicken salad. Or add it to wraps and other meals when you have the necessary ingredients. Properly freeze-dried chicken is lightweight and can have a long storage life when packaged and stored according to the manufacturer's instructions. That makes it much easier to keep than fresh chicken. The flavor can also work well with a wide range of seasonings. Garlic, pepper, herbs, spices, or sauces can completely change the final meal. That gives you variety without needing dozens of different stored foods. When preparing freeze-dried chicken, follow the product's instructions carefully. Use safe water for rehydration. Allow it to rehydrate for the recommended amount of time. And prepare it in a way that follows the manufacturer's food safety guidance. Don't assume every freeze-dried meat product is prepared exactly the same way. Storage is equally important. Keep unopened packages protected from heat, moisture, and oxygen. Don't expose long-term storage food to unnecessary humidity. Once opened, reseal the remaining product properly and follow the manufacturer's recommendations for use. Freeze-dried chicken earns the number 5 spot because it's familiar, versatile, protein-rich, and capable of becoming a wide range of satisfying meals. And now we're down to the final 4. The next food is something that can make simple breakfasts and desserts taste much better. Number 4. Powdered milk. We're down to the final 4. At number 4 is a food that can add creaminess, protein, and familiar dairy flavor to a long-term pantry. Powdered milk. Fresh milk obviously has a short shelf life and requires refrigeration. Powdered milk is completely different. When properly packaged and stored, it can remain usable for a much longer period than fresh milk. And it can be surprisingly versatile. You can mix it with water to make milk. Use it in baking. Add it to oatmeal. Mix it into soups and sauces. Or use it in recipes that require milk as an ingredient. That means you're not simply storing a beverage. You're storing a useful cooking ingredient. Powdered milk can also be particularly valuable when access to fresh dairy products becomes limited. But storage conditions matter. Moisture can cause powdered milk to clump and degrade. Keep unopened packages according to the manufacturer's recommendations. Once opened, protect the powder from humidity and store it appropriately. Always check the package for its recommended shelf life and storage instructions. Different powdered milk products can have different storage characteristics. Taste is another consideration. Some people notice a difference between reconstituted powdered milk and fresh milk. That's why it's smart to try the product before purchasing a large quantity for emergency storage. If your family doesn't like it, you're better off choosing another shelf-stable dairy option. You can also use powdered milk primarily as a cooking ingredient rather than a beverage. That can make the flavor difference less noticeable in recipes. Powdered milk earns the number 4 spot because it's versatile, useful for cooking, and can provide a practical dairy option when fresh milk isn't available. And now we're down to the final 3. The next food is one of the simplest ways to add flavor and calories to a long-term pantry. Number 3. Freeze-dried corn. We're down to the final 3. At number 3 is a food that can provide sweetness, texture, and real vegetable flavor long after fresh corn is gone. Freeze-dried corn. Fresh corn is delicious, but it doesn't stay fresh forever. Freeze-dried corn gives you another way to preserve that familiar taste while dramatically reducing the moisture content. The result is lightweight, easy to store, and surprisingly versatile. You can eat it as a crunchy snack. Rehydrate it for meals. Add it to soups. Mix it with rice. Combine it with beans. Or use it in other recipes. That versatility makes it much more valuable than a food that can only be eaten one way. It can also add variety to meals that might otherwise become repetitive. Imagine having a simple bowl of rice and beans. Add some rehydrated corn, and suddenly you have different color, texture, and flavor. That's important in long-term preparedness. Food fatigue is real. When people store only basic staples, they may eventually become tired of eating the same combinations. Adding shelf-stable vegetables and fruits can make a major difference. As with all freeze-dried foods, packaging is critical. Protect the product from moisture and oxygen. Keep unopened packages sealed. Store them in a cool, dry, dark environment. After opening, reseal the package properly and use the product according to the manufacturer's recommendations. And remember that freeze-dried foods aren't automatically good forever. Shelf life depends on the product, packaging, and storage conditions. Follow the manufacturer's stated guidance. Freeze-dried corn earns the number 3 spot because it can provide real vegetable flavor, is lightweight, and can be used in snacks, soups, rice dishes, and many other meals. And now we're down to the final 2. The next survival food is something that can make simple pantry meals taste dramatically better. Number 2. Freeze-dried strawberries and bananas. We're down to the final 2. At number 2 is a combination that can make long-term food storage feel almost like a normal breakfast. Freeze-dried strawberries and bananas. Both fruits bring something different. Strawberries provide a bright, sweet flavor. Bananas provide a creamy, familiar sweetness when used in appropriate recipes. And because both can be freeze-dried, they can become lightweight additions to a long-term pantry. You can eat them directly from the package. Add them to oatmeal. Mix them into cereal. Combine them with powdered milk. Use them in baking. Or crush them into smaller pieces for other recipes. They're especially useful for breakfast. Imagine a bowl of oatmeal made from stored oats and powdered milk. Then add freeze-dried strawberries and bananas. Suddenly, a basic survival breakfast becomes something much more enjoyable. That's the real purpose of keeping flavorful foods in your emergency supply. You want foods that help make difficult circumstances feel a little more normal. But remember, the quality of freeze-dried fruit depends heavily on packaging and storage. Moisture can quickly affect the texture. Heat can reduce quality over time. And once a package is opened, the remaining fruit needs protection from humidity. Keep unopened packages according to the manufacturer's recommendations. After opening, reseal them properly. For long-term storage, follow the specific product instructions regarding oxygen absorbers, containers, and storage conditions. Also check for added sugar or other ingredients when purchasing. Some freeze-dried fruit products contain only fruit. Others may contain sweeteners or flavorings. Choose according to your household's preferences. Freeze-dried strawberries and bananas earn the number 2 spot because they're lightweight, naturally flavorful, ready to eat, and can transform simple stored foods into much more enjoyable meals. And now we've reached number 1. The final food on this list is one of the most useful long-term pantry staples because it can work as both a meal ingredient and a comfort food. Number 1. Freeze-dried apples. We've reached number 1. And this is a food that can surprise you with just how enjoyable long-term storage can be. Freeze-dried apples. Apples are familiar, sweet, crisp, and naturally flavorful. But fresh apples eventually spoil. Freeze-dried apples give you a way to preserve that familiar fruit flavor in a lightweight form that can be stored for a long time when properly packaged. You can eat them straight from the package. Add them to oatmeal. Mix them with cereal. Combine them with nuts or other dried foods. Use them in baking. Or rehydrate them if you prefer a softer texture. That flexibility is exactly what makes them useful. They aren't limited to one particular meal. And they can provide something extremely valuable in a long-term emergency pantry. Variety. Think about what happens if you're eating the same basic foods for weeks. Rice, beans, pasta, soup. Even nutritious meals can become difficult to enjoy when every meal tastes the same. Freeze-dried apples give you another flavor and texture. They can turn a plain breakfast into something different. They can become a simple snack. And they can provide a familiar fruit flavor when fresh produce isn't available. But if you're planning to store them for years, packaging is everything. Moisture is the biggest enemy of freeze-dried foods. Oxygen and heat can also affect quality over time. That's why long-term storage products should remain sealed according to the manufacturer's instructions. Keep them in a cool, dry, dark environment. If you're using specialized long-term storage packaging, follow the instructions for oxygen absorbers and containers. Once opened, protect the remaining food from humidity and consume it according to the manufacturer's recommendations. And don't assume every freeze-dried apple product has the same shelf life. Check the actual package. The manufacturer's stated storage period is far more useful than a generic number found online. Freeze-dried apples earn the #1 spot because they're versatile, naturally sweet, lightweight, easy to eat, and capable of bringing a familiar fruit flavor to a pantry long after fresh apples would have disappeared. So there you have it. 12 survival foods that can still taste great years after being stored when they're properly packaged and kept under suitable conditions. Freeze-dried strawberries. Freeze-dried blueberries. Freeze-dried peaches. Dehydrated potatoes. Freeze-dried ground beef. Freeze-dried cheese. Honey. Freeze-dried chicken. Powdered milk. Freeze-dried corn. Freeze-dried strawberries and bananas. And freeze-dried apples. But here's the biggest lesson. Long-term food storage isn't just about finding the food with the longest possible shelf life. It's about building a pantry your household can actually use. Buy foods you already enjoy. Try new long-term storage products before buying large quantities. Store them properly. Protect them from moisture, heat, light, oxygen, and pests. And rotate your supplies whenever possible. Don't wait until an emergency to discover that your family doesn't like what you've stored. Taste test your foods now. Learn how to prepare them. Combine them with other pantry staples. And gradually build a supply that gives you options. Because when times are difficult, food should do more than keep you alive. It should give you energy, comfort, variety, and a sense of normalcy. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Prepper Pulse and turn on notifications. We upload new videos daily with practical preparedness tips, food storage ideas, grocery advice, and emergency planning strategies to help you stay informed and ready. Stay prepared, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.